So the effort of using this taxonomy of learning is to facilitate the learner to create diverse type of learning experiences and stimulate the learner to think different and come out with new learning. Develop interest in the learning. Likewise, the different verbs for synthesis level, okay, higher order level, students will be able to categorize. Students will be able to invent. Not necessarily the invention can occur only at the end of the academic practices. As the process of learning is occurring, it can occur. Only thing, as an educator, we need to provide such environment in which they can think differently. Students will be able to generate. Students will be able to justify. Students will be able to conclude, appraise. Okay, so these are different verbs of cognitive domain, friends. Okay, if we go further, as I was telling, this taxonomy of cognitive domain was given by Sir Benjamin Bloom in 1956, and then it required some refinement. Many taxonomists, many psychologists, many educators came forward, and as a result of that brainstorming and churning, they came out with the verb form of this cognitive domain, which we are more popularly using today. And the levels there are its work from: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So we need to enable the learner to create new knowledge. And for that, we need to develop learning experiences, develop learning objectives, and attain learning outcomes at different levels. For that, as an educator, we should be aware of the different verbs that I just displayed. Can I move further? Any questions? Okay. So we look at another form of the taxonomy that I said, affective domain, right? Affective domain is where we are developing the attitude of the learner, where we are grooming the emotions, regulating the emotions of the learner through the weapon of our subject. Each educator has the weapon of the content mastery of the subject which they are teaching. And almost any subject can enable the learner, enable the teacher to develop character. What is the end product of this taxonomy of affective domain is receiving. Yes, as a learner, from the educator, from the teacher, the student is receiving, responding, and based on that, he values or manipulates in his own way, organizes, and then it becomes a part of their character. So as an educator, what we present before them to receive and develop a character is upon us. The best we give so that we can generate the best professionals for the society. And if that is the motive, what are the different verbs for receiving? The students will be able to choose, describe, select. Responding, the students will be able to compile, label, perform. Right? Students will be able to justify, propose, valuing. If it is organization, students will be able to formulate, synthesize. And when it is character building, students will be able to discriminate between right and wrong. Students will be able to verify whether it is correct or not to believe any information as it comes. They should be in the capacity to verify. Today, there is burst of information through different social media. The students are open to almost any information that they want from multiple sources. But as an educator, we need to groom them that which is a correct and relevant information to their trust. Okay? They cannot take any information as it comes to them. Students will be able to modify. So will be able to solve, problem solving. We need to groom them. And for that, such learning experiences need to be developed. So with that, we come to the end of the affective domain. And now I would like to present before you the taxonomy of psychomotor domain. Right? Psychomotor domain, as I told you, this domain aims at skill development. As an educator, as I told you, our prime role is to ensure that we develop among the learners knowledge, attitude, and most important, skill development, for which they will be hired in their different profession, which will enable them to pursue their role as professionals confidently. Right? So what are the different levels? As I said, taxonomy is nothing, but it is a hierarchical model. From less complex to more complex, there are levels. So the levels of psychomotor domain are imitation. I believe you all know the meaning of imitation. As a learner, it is a very natural instinct that the learners have an instinct to imitate their teacher. Now, what we give them to imitate is on us, right? Imitation, manipulation, and then precision. They are hired for their precision. Thread and thread in the Werner calipers, it has its value. And likewise, drop and drop in the titration has its own value, right? So precision, articulation, and then naturalization. The experts are nothing but they have ingrained this skill and it has become natural. Anytime they can go and dissect an organism and it can lead to a successful operation. They can develop design a best bridge which can help millions of people, right? So how can that happen? The teacher needs to develop these skills from their very, very beginning class, from very junior classes, okay? The verbs therein are, students will be able to assemble, students will be able to dissect, they'll be able to calibrate. See, we don't design the outcomes with such verbs. We are so accustomed with some specific and normal verbs. Students will be able to manipulate, students will be able to operate, students will be able to assemble, students will be able to accomplish, students will be able to adapt, alter, change, recognize. And when it comes to naturalization, students will be able to create, transcend. We hardly use these verbs and therefore our learners hardly absorb this and put it into action. So if our professionals fail somewhere in there is somewhere the teacher has failed in their duty. We need to realize this and need to modify our teaching practices such that we can generate the best professionals. Psychomotor domain, okay? Imitation. What are these? These are the different type of verbs which are inside the, just a minute. Yeah. Okay. Now, with this naturalization, friends, we have seen the verbs of all the three domains. That is the cognitive domain, the affective domain, and various levels in that, and the verbs therein. I would like to present before you, there are some verbs which are called as vague verbs or immeasurable verbs, right? Being educators, our all activities are confined to evaluating students, grading them, putting marks. So we should use the verbs which can be quantified, which can be measured, right? If we use the verbs which I have now displayed on the screen, we cannot quantify them. Suppose some teacher says, students will know the laws of motion. Now, how will I know that they know it? Unless they write it, they use it, or they compute some numericals using those formula, right? So likewise, other such vague verbs are learn. We cannot know whether they have learned unless they perform. That is why it is imperial for all the educators to use action verb, which can make the students to do some action, put the students into action, make them perform and express their learning, right? So this was about Bloom's taxonomy and the different levels in that, right? And in this Bloom's taxonomy, though it is called as Bloom's taxonomy, the other two domains, the affective domain and the psychomotor domain, they are being designed by other psychologists. But it is called as Bloom's taxonomy. And in nutshell, this Bloom's taxonomy is having different type of action verbs, right? These different types of action verbs should be very handy for each and every educator, may it be at any level, from school to the doctorate level, because it will help the educator to design learning experiences. And learning objectives can be framed that by, and with the help of learning experiences, when they will be attained, they will enable the educator to attain the learning outcomes. Presently, the UGC, our government, has given published the new education policy and 2020, which is very precisely emphasizing on outcome-based education, right? So outcome has a lot of importance.